Okay, so next we're going to be talking about course selection. So this is the process of choosing what classes you're going to take for the entirety of high school, and it's very important because academics and your grades are a big part of your high school life and college admissions. So choosing the right courses to begin with and keeping a good course track through high school is very important. So before getting into high school, while you're in middle school itself, it's very important to maintain good grades, not just for the purpose of getting into high school, but also building up those habits of staying consistent, getting good grades so you can continue that on into high school. Maintaining good grades also comes with studying effectively, good time management, and other skills that you're going to need in high school. So making sure that you keep good grades is very important. And if you're struggling on any topic, it's great to do outside practice. So depending on the work that your teachers give you or what they teach you isn't always going to be the best method for your success. So it's important to basically utilize outside resources so that you can better succeed in your classes. So if you're struggling with any topic, let's say you're struggling with math, specifically Algebra 1, there are always videos on YouTube that you can use. Khan Academy is a great resource that has practice questions and videos. If you're really struggling, you can get a tutor, but I believe that there are enough resources for you to succeed using online and AI tools. But even in high school, you're not always going to have teachers with the greatest teaching styles. Sometimes that just isn't going to fit you. You aren't going to be able to learn from them as well. So it's important that you build up the skill of using outside resources to supplement your learning in middle school itself so that you can use that in high school and beyond as well. In middle school, it's also good to stay in higher level courses. They don't all have to be higher level, but it helps with having a good foundation coming into high school. Dealing with harder classes and also just higher level content will help you as you move into high school. So that's good. You can always do classes over the summer if you want to move up a level or something, or just build your skills in a certain like certain subject. So for example, I did geometry through the summer of 7th or 8th grade, and I started Algebra 2 in 8th grade. And this is particularly because I really enjoyed math and I wanted to um, start more advanced math before moving into high school. But this isn't something you have to do whatsoever. It's just important to stay in higher level courses so you have that foundation before entering high school. Also, using your summers wisely, like I said, you can either do additional courses, move up a level in classes if you'd like to. You can also just do outside practice to build on the skills that you already have, especially with like lower classes with math and English. It's good to have really strong like basic skills before moving into high school, because especially with things like math, those lower level courses like pre-algebra and algebra 1 are really important for many of your classes later on. And if you don't have that content mastered, it's going to be much more difficult in high school. Um, Also, in high school, start with lower level courses if you're struggling in a subject or a topic. So, for example, I wasn't always the greatest in language, like French. So, I started with French 1 in high school, and I thought this was really beneficial for me because if you start in a higher level class, even when you're struggling with the subject, it's going to be much more difficult as you move on through high school. And this might not be always be the best choice. So it might be better for you to invest your time and your energy into other topics than starting in a higher level course and struggling for the next 4 years of high school because you didn't have those basic skills that you needed to succeed in that course. So it's better to start lower and spare yourself the pain in the long run. So GPA, I'm sure we've all heard this term. It stands for grade point average. It's basically the one number that represents your performance across all your classes. It takes into account usually how difficult they are and how you perform in them. So this one number is very important. It's the first thing colleges usually look at before looking at the difficulty of your classes or the rigor. It opens a door for a lot of the top universities, so having a strong GPA is more important than stretching yourself in a lot of different directions or taking too difficult of a course load, because that could compromise your GPA, and you'd rather have a higher GPA with a bit lower level classes than to push yourself too hard and your grades end up struggling because of that. So there are different GPA systems across each school. Usually colleges will recalculate your GPA based on their own scale. So comparing GPAs between different schools isn't always the right thing to do because every school is different. Usually though, there are two main GPAs like measuring systems. There's unweighted and weighted. So unweighted GPAs are just purely your grades. They don't take into account how difficult your classes are, if they're honors or APs, whereas weighted GPAs take into account the difficulty of your classes. So for example, if they're APs or honor classes, you usually get a boost to your GPA to account for the fact that you're taking a higher level class. And the raise only helps so much though. Usually it'll make up for about a 1-letter grade of loss, like a minus or a plus. So for example, if you have a B plus in history honors, but you have an A in regular history, that's an A minus to A. That's like 2 jumps on the grading scale. So it's probably better for you to have that A in regular history than to have that B plus in honors history, because your GPA will end up being higher. And this system varies for every school, so this will not always apply, but it's a pretty good rule to abide by. So next, we're going to be talking about course difficulty. So when you're first choosing your classes for 9th grade, it's important to look at how the difficulty of those classes will change throughout your high school years. So look at basically your course map for the entirety of high school. So if you start with, let's say, geometry freshman year in math, you'll have algebra 2 and then pre-calc and AP calc. So that will be your course progression throughout high school. So it's important to consider that and how the classes you're choosing will layer on top of each other. So look at that collective workload, not just individual courses. So for example, let's say you're taking AP Physics. So you think you can handle AP Physics as a class, sure, but what if you're taking AP Language and AP Calc and AP History? All of those classes together will be a huge time commitment, and you want to see if you can not handle only the individual class, but all of those classes as a whole. So make sure you're looking at how the course load you start with in freshman year will build up over the course of high school, because especially in your junior and senior years, you will be very busy with different activities and college applications. So you want to make sure that you're not putting too much stress on yourself in those 2 years in terms of academic courses. Think about what you can handle as a person. It's different for everybody. So just make sure that your course progression is something that you can handle. Course rigor should be difficult, but it should be balanced. So colleges look at the difficulty of the classes you take. They'll look at how many APs and honors and just overall like how much you challenge yourself throughout the course of high school. But dropping your GPA and sacrificing your grades to take a lot of classes is not good. So you should prioritize your performance in the classes over how difficult they are or how good they look on a transcript. So having a good balance, different for everyone, but just make sure that you know that it will work for you. And prioritize classes that you like and you want to pursue a career in. So for example, if you want to pursue a career in a STEM field, but you're deciding to take AP French and AP US History and AP Lang along with your AP STEM courses, it might be good to consider dropping a level on some of the humanities classes so you can prioritize your performance in the STEM classes, which you enjoy and want to pursue a future in. And more information, it's good to make sure that you're taking all 5 core classes throughout high school, which are math, English, world language, history, and science. Look at what options your school has for doubling courses or electives. Electives usually begin in freshman or sophomore year, so make sure you're looking into what your school offers. And then as for doubling classes, it's a double-edged sword, especially in your freshman year. You don't want to stress yourself out too much or basically make your course load way too heavy by doubling classes. Make sure that you can handle it, that it works for you, and that it's a good trajectory for the entire 4 years of high school. So say, for example, you want to double science your freshman year, which is what I did. I took biology and chemistry in freshman year and then physics in sophomore year, and I'm taking AP biology now. If you want to take only 3 science classes, so biology, chemistry, and physics, and you take 2 your freshman year and 1 your sophomore year, that's still only 2 years of science, and you usually want to end up with around 3 or 4 years of science, depending on what field you're going into. So it's good to think about those things beforehand and not just dive into doubling up classes without thinking about how that's going to affect you for the 4 years of high school first.